All right, we're back. This one's interesting. I've thought a lot about this as well. What if CIG is not a game company? Tinfoil hat required. This is from Down to Earth Astronomy. I've really thought a lot about this also. And what if their goal isn't even to make a game? So I've seen some comments that say otherwise. Oh, it's muted. Hold on. Why is it muted? Let's go back 1 second. What if he said the whole point of the video?
So I'm sitting on Discord one evening and chit-chatting with the other guys over there, as we do most evenings. And this particular evening, we're talking Star Citizen. And somebody posed the argument that what if CIG's main goal is in fact not to build Star Citizen and Squadron 42, but they have another motive in mind?
Ooh,
okay, so
I think their goal is to build Squadron. Because I think in the direction he's going to go is like technical things and like selling the engine or whatever. But I think Squadron is still meant to be a game. But I think that's where they're going to go with this, is like selling tech. And I don't know, it feels that way sometimes.
This video might be a little out there. It might be a little tinfoil hattery, but
it might be
hear
a
me
little,
out here.
But I think there's some logic to it.
What if Star Citizen and Squadron 42 is merely an ends to a mean for CIG in order to build a game engine? Now, I know that might sound preposterous. As a matter of fact, hold on.
Perfect.
Okay, there we go. That's a lot better. Okay. Star Citizen and Squadron 42 has taken a lot of time and a very sizable amount of cash. And yet we still have two games that is nowhere near completion, and they have been more expensive than I think anything else that we've seen in gaming history. Imagine, for instance, you want to build a house. Wow, the fastest and
expensive or wasteful, right? There's also that. Just the general way they're designing the game and wasting money on server costs and all these and CitizenCon events and all these other things. How many millions of dollars have been wasteful and how many have been actually expensive? I would agree with Hegemon. It's both.
Cheapest way to do so would probably go down to the local lumber yard, where you go and you buy yourself some lumber and then you go and build your house. But what you could also do was to go and buy a plot of land with a lot of forest on it.
That's what I want to do.
Cut down the trees, build your own lumber yard, and process the trees, and then build the house that way. Now, the last approach is obviously going to be much more expensive and take a lot longer than the other approach. But at the end of it, you have a lumber yard. And imagine now that you think that you can...
I wonder why he used the lumber yard as the example.
Build a lumberyard that can process more beautiful wood than the guy down the street, so you can do it better than him.
The difference is that CIG hired architects to run the lumberyard.
And now also imagine...
And interior designers. That's it. We didn't hire a construction company. We hired people that focus on making things look good, but not function. There's no engineers.
That the house that you were building was not a fact for you to live in, but was merely a demo to showcase potential customers what
Where are the
beautiful wood you're able
carpenters?
to produce. What if the same thing is what's happening here? What if Star Citizen and Squadron 42 is merely supposed to be demos for a game engine that CIG is building? A bit of history here with Star Citizen and game engines. Originally, they started out on the CryEngine 3, and then later on, they moved over to the Amazon Lumberyard engine. Do you guys see what I did there?
I did.
But at this point in time, CIG has modified this engine to such a degree that it would be fair to separate it into its own engine that has the working title, at least among the community, as the Star Engine.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, if you look at CIG as building two games and a game engine, then the time spent and money doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Now,
but the thing is what's the legality behind that? You know, they can internally call it Star Engine. We can call it whatever the fuck we want. But if they're going to sell it, what's the legality? Is I have no idea.
The clues to this lie in the fact that they are building 2 games. Why are they doing this? Why are they building 2 separate games at the same time? Surely it must be better to build one, get that out, ship, done, and then make the other one afterwards. If we go back to the idea with it being demos, you won't be able to show new potential customers if they're sitting and they're choosing what engine they're going to build their new game in. They could take all the like industry standard ones that have been proven again and again that it could
I think that would only work if they were selling the engine to people now, right?
produce quality games, or you could take this newcomer in the market that nobody's seen, nobody used before. So you need demos, and you want to be able to demo that you can both build massive multiplayer, multi-server things that can just, with players moving seamlessly between servers and all this cool stuff that CIG is doing. But you also want to show that you can do single-player, campaign-driven type games.
Like Ubisoft can never license out Dunia that they used to make Far Cry because it was the CryEngine 1 fork. Yeah. That's kind of like doesn't make much sense.
And with stuff like Arena Commander, they also kind of try to showcase that they can also do some like team-based combat, whatever thing. And with the way Star Citizen is built, where they also show that they can do first-person shooters.
But that's like, isn't Far Cry like just like a random single-player game? Not random, but I think you know what I mean. Whereas when you add the server meshing and you add the PES and you add the 32-bit precision and you add all these things that they've added on top of CryEngine, when does it become enough to not be considered CryEngine anymore? Would be really interesting to know. I don't care personally, but I do worry that this is something that maybe they're doing.
Atmospheric flight stuff. They have some flight models in there that kind of works, and all this stuff is things they are doing to showcase what the engine can do. This thing is getting really warm really quickly. Oh my god. Take that off. Okay, but again, that begs a question. If these 2 games is merely supposed to be demos of a game engine, are they ever going to release? Was all the critics right? Is CIG never going to release this game? They're just going to use it as a demo, and then when they're done with the engine, just to scrap the project. No, I don't think that's the case. Similar with the lumberyard. If you have a would-be customer that comes in and they look at the house and it's half finished and crooked, then they're going to be less likely to buy your lumber, because even though the quality of the wood might be great, but Valve, if it's sloppy build, you might go down and buy it someplace else. For the same reason, it is critically important for CIG that Star Citizen, Squadron 42 both comes out with good reviews, good performance, and bug-free. Because they need to show would-be customers that you can build a working game in the engine. Because if a customer is looking at Star Citizen full of bugs, and then they think, so the developer of the game engine can't even make a bug-free game, what's the chance that we're going to be able to do it? Also, try to take a look at what CIG is doing with their Inside Star Citizen and their Star Citizen Live. Compared to many other game developers, CIG is spending a huge amount of time of showing behind-the-scenes things. Usually game companies, they will show some trailers or some gameplay footage of something that looks like a finished game. Now, CIG like to do that too, but they also spend a lot of time.
But they don't have anything to show that looks like a finished game, so now they've been going this route, which sucks. It's boring. Of
showing all the stuff they do behind the scenes as they are developing things. They have had a dedicated episode where they just showed all their internal tools where they were building rivers, showing how easy it is to just put down the sea. Here's the source of the river, and then it figures out how it should flow through the landscape and how it should be eroded away and all that stuff. They showed how easy it was to do. That's marketing. And it's not marketing towards players. That's marketing towards game developers, because they want to show how cool and what awesome tools they have in their game engine. And they even said that they have.
Oh, okay, this is interesting. So if you really care, CryEngine sold rights to Amazon Lumberyard. Lumberyard launched an open source platform. I don't know how to say it, but O3DE. ODE? I guess. RSI migrated from CryEngine to Lumberyard to O3DE so they can sell whatever they've made. It's based on open source licenses. Interesting. Okay. Open 3D engine. Ah, okay.
Dedicated tool teams, which only job is to build tools for this engine. So there is some merit.
That's very relevant.
However,
then.
there is one burning question. If we assume that all this is true, and that is a very big if. I'm not really sure if I believe it myself, but let's just, for the sake of argument here, assume that this is true, that this is CIG's end goal. The big question is this fair for the backers? Is it fair?
I mean, of course not. But here's what oh no, I mean, if Star Citizen fails, that wouldn't work either. I was just thinking, like, if Star Citizen fails, they can recoup a little bit by selling the tech that they had worked on already. But yeah,
fair that you go out and say we're gonna make a game, and then you're also gonna make people pay for a game engine while getting there. Kind of like if you go out and buy a house, is it okay that you then also have to go out and buy for the guy to build a complete lumberyard? I don't have a straight up answer, because on one side,
that's why I think they want to push to release Squadron 42. They have dialed back what a release of Star Citizen will look like. Just go watch the 318 or excuse me, 2018 CitizenCon about what is released. They dial back completely about what a release Star Citizen would be, what a minimum viable product would be. They've talked so much about 4.0 being XYZ, so like very similar to what they sound like they want to release to be. So the idea of once we're in around that stage in Star Citizen CIG, from a company perspective, we'll probably be like, yep, it's released, we'll iterate on it, but this is Star Citizen, right? And I don't think that's going to be a very good thing, but I think that's what they're probably going to do. And then they could be like, here you go, we released you a game, and now our focus goes towards this kind of stuff. It could be. It very well could be. I do have my fears. I don't think these are irrational fears necessarily.
CIG has been pretty transparent about this, as we just talked about with their Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Lives. They don't try to hide it. They're pretty open about what they're doing. So on one end, well, people went into it with open eyes, but on the other hand, there's also the argument that people backed a game, not a game engine, and that it should be CIG's responsibility to
people backed a game, not a game development class either.
Try and get that game finished as quickly and as cheaply as possible. But then again, the counter argument to that would be, oh, but the technology is just not there to go and build all the things that CIG want. It just doesn't exist, so they have to build it themselves. It's a necessary evil for them to do in order to be able to complete Star Citizen.
Well, then is it fair for him to come out in GDC in 2012 and say, I feel that computers have reached the level to be able to do and show you these things and make the game that I want to make, and then make the claims that the tech isn't there and we have to build it after changing the scope completely of the game? I think that's where the fairness went away. That went away a long time ago.
With the vision that they currently have. So while I'm absolutely sure that the tech argument was valid some years ago, whether it is today, I don't really know. I'm not a game developer, so there's probably people out there who have more knowledge about this than me. But I'm really interested to know, what do you think? Do I need an extra layer on my tinfoil hat? Am I completely out there? Or do you think there is some merit to this argument? Comment section below.
Yeah, I don't think he's that out of line in thinking this. Especially more when I read about the Open 3D engine thing. It's like, ooh, did they just position themselves to do exactly that? And then what does that mean for us, right? Yeah, like, I think the one thing that he implies is it will never be more than a demo. It doesn't have to be. Like, Fortnite is somewhat of a complete game, right? But it definitely highlights some of the cool things that their, Unreal Engine or whatever can do, right? So there's plenty of reasons that the game, especially a Squadron 42, can complete and showcase what the engine can do for other developers if they ever wanted to sell it, right? So I don't think that that's that big of a deal, but yeah. But I'm like so confused. Who benefits? Yeah, it benefits Chris. Yeah, it benefits Chris, Sandy, Aaron, any of the what was it described? The business people or the owners or whatever. The people have like ownership stake in the company. Yeah, it helps the shareholders because now that is profit that comes into the company that is not required to be spent on game development, right? So from their perspective, and I think that they've held pretty steadfast to this outside of repaying the Calders with our money, which is fucking bullshit, and repaying or paying themselves a C-level salary, which I also think is fucking bullshit, is the only two aspects of the negative side of the money coming in. I think that they have applied the money that we have given to the rest of the money that we've given to the developers who work on the game to make the game and focus on game development outside of those two things. The one, what was it, 2021, when they gave $5 million back to the Calders before ever delivering on any of the things that the Calders invested in that they spoke to us about, and their shareholders or whatever. And the idea that Chris takes a C-level salary and we don't know what Sandy or Aaron or Ortwin or any of the original owners make is sort of problematic in my mind. But those are the only problematic things. Outside of that, which is a small percentage of the money that comes in is spent on them, and then a large percentage of the money is spent on the game's development and marketing or whatever, right? So, yeah, that's where I think is like, the appropriation of money seems to be relatively good in comparison to like, I don't know, Bobby Kotick or something like that, right? Where he's just giving himself huge bonuses. So I think this benefits and will benefit them in the long run if they go this route, but I hope that they do deliver a finished product too. It doesn't just have to be a demo. That would be the only thing that I question about his point of view on this one.